For March the 1st, 2025, we talk about Cryptmaster, the Monster Train 2 demo, Satisfactory, and much more. Welcome to level 534. My name is Kole Ross.
I'm Dennis Furia.
I'm Moxie.
I'm Ben Merkel.
And you are listening to The Level. It's a podcast for people who love video games. It's been a while since it has been the four of us, and I would like to extend a huge thanks to Jala for coming in clutch many more weeks in a row than we normally call on her. Ben, was it you who was away last week?
I was, I was house/dog sitting.
Okay.
So had a good time doing that and exploring a new neighborhood of Seattle.
Nice. Yeah, you shared a picture of the dog, and that's a really good dog.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is a old Westie and a very, very chill dog. So it was a good time. We had a good time hanging out for the week.
Nice. What else going on?
Did you do walks? You get to walk the dog? Yeah,
twice to three times a day. That actually took up most of my past week. So from going to 0 to 1 responsibilities is a big jump for me. So
about 80% dog walk by volume. But I imagine that contributed to the exploring.
I went to a trivia one night in West Seattle. I went to, there's a bakery I really like over there, so I went there. Just general things like that. The place I was watching is on Alki, so it's right by, like, the water, so it's fun to do some walks by that as well.
Okay.
That's awesome.
And you're, like, it's temperate enough there that it's not miserable to be out?
No. Yeah, it's just been rainy now, so it's not, temperature-wise, it's good. It's not snowy like it was, like, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's a good time to have a dog to walk.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anything else besides just taking care of a good dog?
Not too much. Nothing off the top of my head, really.
Okay.
Pretty utilitarian week this past week. So a lot of function, not a lot of
Nothing wrong with that. Moxie, how about you?
Not a whole lot. I'm continuing getting ready for the move and all that stuff. So that's, packing up all of your things. I feel like maybe you learn a lot about a person by, like, I don't know, the weirdest box label they have when packing, or
what's the did you, if you're comfortable sharing, what's the weirdest one?
So I think the weirdest box label is one that just says it's chords and miscellaneous that's just entirely full of string and chords and straps and stuff like that.
So cord like literal cloth cord, not cord like cables.
Yeah, like paracord and stuff. Yeah,
that's an important bit of context.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. I also have many of the others, but that's under electronics.
So you are ready at any point to fashion a whip of chords.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think the other weird thing is I have a spotter scope that I don't recall ever acquiring.
Like a sniper spotter scope?
Yeah.
You'll understand when you hear your activation phrase.
Oh boy.
Oh. Yeah, I was going to say, like, I've got a box of some cables, and, like, okay, and? How is that weird? Like,
No. Also, it is scientifically impossible to have a little fabric. You either have no fabric or all of the fabric.
You know what? This is true. I do not have any, like, unfashioned fabric.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I have just so much fabric, and given that most of the stuff I do is kind of gothy, I have a box that is simply black fabric.
Uh-huh.
I have basically as much black fabric as I have every other fabric.
Black is utilitarian. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I mean, we wish you luck with the move. It sucks having to touch everything you own.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Have you guys reached the point where you do movers instead of moving things yourself?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Do you mean in terms of like having people pack or having people like drive it and stuff?
the actual moving part?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely doing that. I got the pod things or whatever there, you know, where they just drop off a huge box.
That's a good compromise because it's like, okay, I can fill it with my stuff at a pace, and then like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I don't really have anything. It's like literally just all the usual stuff. If you know me, you know the stuff I've been doing. Dennis, I'm curious about you.
Yeah. So yesterday, as of this recording, I went to my first protest.
Fantastic. Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can talk about UC, I assume.
Yeah. Do you want me to give the background on it, or would you like to?
Yeah, knock yourself out.
Yeah. So Ohio has very bad laws, specifically around trans people in the current moral panic. And something about state facilities and places that receive state funding, you know, trying to, impose basically bathroom bills.
That bullshit.
In order to drive trans people out of public life. Part of this is state universities. In this case, the University of Cincinnati, a school where all of us went. Like that's literally
all of us met.
Yeah.
Well, not true.
Yeah.
Ben, had I ever met you before?
Yeah.
Because
you told me at your in-laws' house that we were living across from one another.
That's
right.
The summer
before.
So never mind. I rescind my statement.
Yeah, but Moxie and I are childhood friends. But just we're the four of us met. But University of Cincinnati, kind of very publicly, at least it's the school that it hit the internet first, started changing their bathroom signs over to say biological men and biological women, which is a farcical distinction. Just absolutely
and
specifically not know that.
Yeah,
specifically they changed non-gendered bathrooms to have these obscenely biologically gendered, whatever you want to say, labels on them, like going out of their way to make things hostile to trans people.
Yeah, and like getting rid of non-gender bathrooms, which bathrooms shouldn't have. It's stupid. So they put up these incredibly, I'm just gonna say it, bigoted signs, right? Caving to the state leadership, technically following the law, but like the law doesn't matter anymore.
and I want to be clear because you do not let them off the hook for this. What they did was so much more complying with the law.
Yeah,
like
explain that.
It was like
they
jumping
call it
onto the dick.
Compliance.
Yes. So
go ahead.
One of the speakers at the protest talked about how like to technically be in compliance, all UC would have had to done would be send out an email saying, I forget exactly what, but like bathroom signs might be changing or something like that. Like no physical changes needed, no action other than an email, and they would have technically been in compliance. But as you mentioned, they were like hot out the gate, one of the first universities to go switching out signs to make people's lives hard.
To the point where it kind of seemed gleeful.
Yeah,
yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. So, definitely brought out the protesters. I can say that for sure.
Yeah. So how was it? Because I saw your photos, and that was really cool. I didn't know that there was an official thing. I was going to keep an eye out. I was surprised that it happened like so soon.
Yes. So and I would be remiss if I didn't call out the other side of this, which is equally as important. Being the sudden just ending of DEI programs at UC. So anticipating that whatever it is, SB1 is going to pass in Ohio. They basically took the same approach to programs that supported students of color as they did to bigoted bathroom signage. And, one of the students that spoke was top of his class in high school, could have gone anywhere on a full ride, chose UC because the program there spoke to him. And now a couple years in, that program and scholarship disappeared overnight.
Yeah.
Because it was under the vague label of DEI. This is a student that UC was lucky to have and could have done anything, that got swindled by this DEI rollback because people don't really understand what DEI is.
Yeah.
So it was really a combined front. And the LGBT plus community falls under DEI as well.
Yeah.
And so, DEI stoppage or DEI rollback, whatever. And specifically UC's just horny compliance with it. Just begging for and specifically the President Panny is at the top. It was very clear that he had kind of made the decision on his own, or at least in a way that students and staff felt completely in the dark until the email that went out to everyone went out. So just protesting his cowardice and compliance. And I learned this today talking to a neighbor who works at UC. She had to do her quarterly review, whatever. And literally there's an entire pillar, like UC has like 3 pillars that they evaluate, work plans and staff and whatever on. And one of them is inclusion. How the fuck can you have inclusion as one of your core pillars and then be at the forefront of pulling this kind of shit? I don't know. So people came out to protest that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that leadership probably didn't have a very strong commitment to it anyway. DEI marketing, we're seeing all the places that were in it just for the marketing. Yeah, no,
currently.
No, I mean, so like there was enough of an uproar about it that like by the time I called the university president's office, the person who answered seemed very exhausted. And when I said, "Hey, I'm calling to complain about, I'm an alumni, I'm calling to complain about this policy." Like, okay, there's an email that we've set up specifically for this, which might as well just like print it on toilet paper, Yeah. But like, but regardless, I did what I could and and wrote in. But yeah, so like, I'm not surprised, A, that there is backlash to it, B, that the protest happened. It is a little surprising how quickly it came together. And also, like, people are ripping the signs off the walls.
That was happening even before the protest. I heard, I think on Blue Sky, I saw your post about it first, with literally the sign just ripped off the wall. You can see the bolt holes. I also heard that in another dorm, not only was the sign ripped off the wall, but then a giant dick was drawn over it.
Yeah.
So, look, if you're going to be a dick about the biologically specific stuff, let's be honest about what we're talking about here. Just the best kind of vandalism in the face of what UC is doing. There is a very, there's not a very happy end to this story. We don't know yet. We're in the middle of it. But there is a very happy turn to this story.
Okay.
So, yesterday the protest started around noon, was going strong when I had to leave to, get kids out of school. There was a second protest or continuation of the protest that convened at 8 a.m. today, as we record. And was outside. I guess there was a faculty council meeting or whatever, and literally the hall that these people were in was surrounded. The place was filled to capacity and the people were banging on the doors and chanting as this meeting went along. And they refused to let the board members leave until every person who wanted to speak to them had spoken.
Nice.
So I locked them down. I was like, no, you're going to sit here and answer for this bullshit. And the Panny has already turned around and said, oh, haha, it was a misunderstanding on the trans signage thing. We didn't mean to do that. We won't. And then, I guess we'll let DEI programs exist and not cancel everyone's scholarships until SB1 passes in June or whenever that is. And so in a matter of 2 days, since the protests start, the staff, walked back what they did, uncanceled programs that were being canceled, and fucked off with their bigoted signage. So
that's right. You better run.
yes. So I am very pleased at Cincinnati's vehement and immediate response. I don't know if we talked about on air. There was a little Nazi demonstration that got run off and their shit taken and burned in Lincoln Heights, which is a Cincinnati suburb. A couple weeks ago. Yeah. The fact that we have to deal with this shit on such a frequent basis sucks, but the fact that Cincinnati is kind of cultivating a fledgling reputation as the city that does not tolerate Nazi bullshit, I can live with.
And that's I mean, the city doesn't have a great history when it comes to,
the Underground Railroad, awesome.
Yes.
Between that and now, let's unfocus our eyes a little bit.
To just 2001. And generally, it's a pretty segregated city too. At least it was when I was there, right?
Yeah, it's gotten better, and some of that you could chalk up to gentrification. Like as downtown has gotten nicer, more white people have gone there, to put it very bluntly. But yeah. It's a city that has lots of room to improve, and hopefully this UC protest is a small part of creating a culture of improving it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thank you for going to that. If there was even just like 4 days notice, I could have arranged to get down there, but they were just right on top of it. Yeah.
Well, I would have missed it if you hadn't been posting about it.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah,
it all works out.
Something good came out of me.
Yeah, absolutely it did. Hey now. So the other tidbit I'll share that I just found amusing was my mom comes from a very conservative background, and she's come around on LGBT stuff much faster than she has on DEI stuff.
Yeah.
I hate using that term because it is totally just a blanket statement for people that Nazis hate.
Yeah.
But it could come around on racial stuff specifically.
Or it could come around on things that for her would be affirmative action. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. It's she gets the Fox News.
I didn't mean to do a voice, but I'm thinking of my mom as well.
Yeah. We've all got Midwestern moms. It's a common experience. I asked her, hey, I've got this thing at UC. can you babysit Barrett while I go down? Cause I didn't know what was going to go down. I didn't want to bring a 4-year-old to a protest just yet. And she agreed. She always loves to hang out with Barrett. And she gets there, and I had the giant, I had an old play carpet that I flipped over and used to paint a giant sign that had, protect LGBT and support DEI on it. And this stuff had a big slogan written on a whiteboard that I was kind of and she comes in, she's like, hey Barrett, how you doing? All right, yeah, you can go. What is this thing, by the way? I was like, oh, there's some anti-trans stuff I'm protesting by.
Mom, the sign explains the sign. The sign explains the sign.
Just got out of there in a hurry. And, I think, I don't know if she looked up at anything. She didn't ask me too many questions about it coming back, but I don't know. Stay loud, stay active, and hopefully people come around further.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I think a big thing is, if you went to a university that does this stuff, contact the alumni association, because that tends to be something that universities get a little paranoid about.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
Gotta protect the brand.
I'm trying to get a hold of my department head, or the head of my old department. Seeing if there's any organization happening in there. But yeah.
I mean, that was Conservatory of Music, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no LGBT people in music.
Yeah, or in the oh, there are no LGBT AV kids.
Right, exactly.
Oh God. Well, that's cool. I am happy you went. The photos on Blue Sky are good.
Yeah. The other part of that was doing battle on Reddit threads on the Cincinnati subreddit, et cetera, which I probably did to an unhealthy amount, but
Yeah. Well.
It's felt like an eventful week already.
Mm-hmm. Sweet. Well, all of that plus playing some video games, which we will talk about now by doing a rather regular kind of show. What with the grind, the multiplayer, and the end boss. And why don't we get started with
the grind?
The grind, where we talk about the games we have been playing over the past period of time or so. Ben, you've been away the longest, so I will start with you.
Yeah, I got a bunch of weird, like small things, a lot of demos, not just because like Steam Next is going on right now, but I guess just happened to be playing demos in the past week or two. So I'm going to narrow it down to 3 things that are a little bit meatier, and then talk about those.
A little bit meatier, like Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, I was gonna say like something coming and destroying our planet. No, the first one's just a tiny one that I want to talk about, which is the Monster Train 2 demo.
Oh shit! There's a demo for that.
Oh yeah, I just saw it. I think this past week because the streamer I watched was playing it. So if you like Monster Train, there's a new Monster Train out. There's not, it's not too substantial. I mean, it feels like a Monster Train game.
Uh-huh.
Basically, the main changes that they made from the first one is that you are going up instead of down. You are going in through the circles of heaven and killing angels,
okay.
I think, as a demon. So perhaps they took some inspiration from Downfall, Slay the Spire mod there.
Oh, yeah.
But, and then mechanically, one of the main differences that they have is they have all new factions with like new abilities. So that's stuff to kind of like sink your teeth into. But one of the main things that they have is they have things like shields and weapons that you can. It's basically like buffs that you can apply on top of units that you have.
Oh,
and you
so
can
it's
kind of
it's like card mods. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can kind of combine those in kind of meaningful ways. And they also have rooms, which is you can target the section that your units are in, and like an effect will come there. Like every time a unit dies in this room, you get 1 energy next round. So there's kind of an interesting space to play around with there. I've only played for maybe an hour or two. I think I played until I got a run where I was able to win. I will say that if you like Monster Train, this is new Monster Train content for you. If you don't like Monster Train, this is pretty much the same thing as the first one with a kind of like some DLC kind of added to it. So I would not jump into this if you did not like the first one, I guess. But yeah. Not too much more to say about it than that, other than a thing exists and check it out if you like that thing.
Nice. Yeah, I had no idea. That's great.
Yeah. I'm going to give a shout out. I'm going to do a real quick one. There's a demo that's out also for a game called Moves of the Diamond Hand.
Okay.
This is a game made by Cosmo D, who is the creator of Betrayal at Club Low and some other weird games.
Okay, yeah.
I would recommend this if you like Betrayal at Club Low. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you should play that game. And I think it's like only like $3 or something. But those games are fun if you like rolling die and pizza die and whatnot. It's like it's like similar to the Monster Train 2. It's like very similar to the previous game, but there's some added perks that they have. Things like as you're walking around in the world, you can fill up meters that will give you like passive effects. And I think the one that they show in the trailer is like if you walk across this busy street, a meter will fill up, and then you'll gain the Jaywalker trait, and then that'll affect your die in some way. So not branching too far away from the previous scaffolding of the game, where it's kind of like a D&D-esque game, but very like snarky and weird. But anyway, I like that a lot, so I was happy to see that out. And the reason I found out about this is, I guess some point in the past I joined the Discord server for that game creator, and so he had pinged, and that's when I realized that I was in the Discord server, because I don't think they had messaged in like years upon years, but announcing that the demo was out. So anyway.
Dumb
That's
question.
that.
What is a pizza die?
So basically the main mechanic of the game is you're rolling die for everything, and you're trying to beat checks, and you have, instead of it being like the normal like strength, dex, constitution type attributes, your things are like music, cooking, like I think like comedy, deception. So it's more like weirder things that you wouldn't expect to come up as much, but they have made the world so that things like talking about cooking all the time are very well supported in the game world.
The world we want to live in.
Yeah, like quite literally you choose what your game's mission is, like in the first like half an hour of the game. And so I decided mine was to make like the perfect sandwich for this traveling circus, because everybody wants to join the traveling circus. Yeah, anyway, that's the vibe of this game. Pretty great. And then also like the music's good on top of that to boot. So if nothing else, it's worth listening to that by itself. Moving right along. This one is exciting for me. I don't know how much I'll get of a reaction, but this is something that came out today. This is a new mode in Marvel Snap that they're just having for 2 weeks called Sanctum Showdown. And it's basically a new game mode. And that by itself is kind of cool. But then on top of it, they basically have rewards for it where it's like there's like 3 exclusive cards you can earn if you play it. There's some other like variants you can earn. There's like a store exclusive to this game mode that you can buy things in. But the premise of the game mode is typically in Marvel Snap, it's 6 rounds. There's 3 locations. And then at the end of the 6 rounds, whoever's winning 2 of the 3 locations or more wins. In the event of a tie, whoever has the most power, like cumulative wins. And in the case of a tie, that's just a tie. But this mode is a little bit different, where instead of it just being at the end of the 6 rounds, it awards points cumulatively at the end of every round. So whoever's winning, and the other thing is it'll pick a specific location of like focus every round, and it'll be somewhat random. It's just never the same one twice in a row. So it's kind of like a one of 2 options that it'll be on every round besides the first. And so the first 2 rounds you get 1 point if you win the location, and then every subsequent round after that, the location's worth 4 points, and then you can snap to make it worth 5 or 6, depending upon if both people do it or just one person does it.
Okay.
And then the first person to reach 16 points wins. I know this is a lot of like numbers that are being thrown at you, but the basic reason why this is fun is it basically kind of subverts all the known meta of the regular game, because it's a very different scoring style. So basically cards that are not that important in the regular Marvel Snap game can become very important here. And so it's mostly exciting because people are trying to figure out the meta specifically today. And so, so it's interesting to see the different card evaluations based on the 2 different modes. So I've been having a lot of fun with that, playing that some today.
Yeah. Oh, God.
No. What were you going to say?
The big thing I saw with this is the inclusion of the Uncle Ben card.
Yeah, I guess everyone's memeing on that one. So that's one of the 3 cards that you can unlock. And it is a card that's 1 power, or costs 1 and is 2 power. And if he dies, you create a Spider-Man where he dies. So a bit morbid, but yeah, you can have Carnage kill Uncle Ben, and then Spider-Man is birthed from that. So
that is very clever.
Yeah. So yeah, some of that's fun. I don't know if people like Uncle Ben yet, or just meme on him, or whatever. But yeah, I guess that's to be figured out as well. Yeah. Anyway, that's cool. I'm excited that they have that mode. it does make for like kind of more interesting decisions because it's a lot harder. Kind of like since the meta's so in place in the base game, like the deck archetypes are like pretty cemented, and a lot of the decks that do well are ones that they might not even play a card the first 3 rounds, and they just rely on like these synergies between like 4, 5, and 6 drops. And so this like subverts all of that. Like those decks are no longer valuable in this format. So that's been interesting. Anyway, I'm going to move on.
Okay.
The last game I want to talk about is one that I've played for a good amount of time. I forget where I heard about it originally. Oh, yeah, I heard about it because I talked about Lock 2 weeks ago, and I had found that one originally. I guess I had heard about that through recommendation, but then I had also seen that it won Indie Game Festival of, I think, last year for game design. And so I looked at the other games that were on that list and found this one. But this is a game called Cryptmaster.
Oh, shit. I'm very curious about this.
Yeah, this is a very unique game, and it has like pretty good production. The mechanic is very unique. If you want to reduce it, you could say it's like a typing game, but it's not the best fit to put it in that box. But the premise is you have 4 different characters who all have kind of weird names, like Toro and like Vin or Sin, Syn, and they're all different kind of like D&D classes. Like there's like a rogue, a sea witch is an exact one, but it's kind of like a mage stand-in, and then like a regular warrior type, barbarian type. And the premise of the game is you're kind of on this grid map, but it's a 3D like first person game.
It's like a
so you're walking
Grimrock dungeon crawler kind of thing.
Okay, yeah. And so you're going along this map. There's random encounters you can have with like monsters who are kind of like Pokemon style, just floating around the map. And then when you do a battle, the way it works is each of your characters have moves, but they have like words that are their moves. So like hit, for example, is one of the barbarians' like first moves that you learn. So if you type out hit and enter, then that barbarian will generate a hit on the monster and take off like an HP. And then like jab might be the rogue's like move to like slice real quick with the dagger. And as you progress in the game, you learn more keywords from the characters. And the way you progress in the game is very interesting, where basically it's like a hangman situation where whatever the word is for their next move will be like hangman in front of them. And whatever monster you kill, the monster will have a name, and you can pick, I think, 2 consecutive letters in their name, and any of those letters that are in the next words you're trying to learn will be highlighted then. And once you have enough information that you can guess, you can say any word, you can type any word at any time. And so if you correctly guess what their next word is, then that unlocks their next ability. So it's a very unique mechanic for a game for like how you do progression.
Yeah.
So like the strategy is like you kind of cycle through what letters you're picking to try and cover, the alphabet as evenly as you can. But then people kind of change out and get upgraded as you go. So you kind of loop back through that kind of at your leisure. And then part of the progression as well is once they've learned enough keywords, they'll eventually start unlocking. You continue their names. So you add more letters to what their names is. And the letters in their names are also double as their hit points. So like when a monster attacks them, they'll take off a letter of a random character. And so if all the letters are gone, then you faint and you restart at your latest like save point. Beyond that, beyond fighting people to get letters, there's also chests throughout this dungeon where you play this game of like 20 questions with the Cryptmaster, who's like the main character. He's kind of like the Crypt Keeper from the 90s, except not sadistic and more just kind of like weird and funny. But he'll do this weird thing where he'll open the chest and look in it and be like, oh, there's a strange item in here. And you have to type out things for him to try and do with the item to figure out what the item is.
So almost like 20 questions? Like, oh, can you eat it? Yeah.
Exactly. No, yeah. So you tell them verbs like remember or like eat or break or taste or see or listen, hear, stuff like that. And they'll react based on that. Or it's like, oh, well, I wouldn't want to eat this. Or like, oh, this is kind of like bushy-tailed or something like that. And you guess like, oh, it's a rat or something like that.
Can you just be like, name it?
Huh?
You just be like, name it?
I don't think that would work, but you could try. Label. I think because the running narrative is that you're all brought back from the dead, and you've all kind of like forgotten what happened in your life, and so the idea is they forget the name of these items, and so that they kind of like describe it. So that's probably naming it wouldn't work even diegetically in the game. So. But anyway, if you correctly guess what it is, then all the letters of that will be populated in whatever words your characters are on.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this is a very like strange game, but I can see why it was like awarded like unique design in the indie game awards.
Yeah.
And then I think to top it all off, there's a card game that they have within the game called Whatever. And so if you type in whatever to random characters, they'll play the card game with you. And the card game, I think, is really fun, where it's like you have a row of letters, like that's maybe like 15 different letters long. And the idea is you pick 2 consecutive at any given time, and you have a deck of cards of a bunch of that you like collect, and every card has a name on it that's typically like 3 to 5 letters, and a lot of times it's like gibberish, like lock, similar to that game 2 weeks ago. But if you fill out an entire name, then it'll trigger some sort of effect, and then you remove it and then draw another one. And the effect could be you draw one more card, or like you can have one more card in your tapestry, or you deal 2 damage to the opponent or something like that. And you both have hit points, and then when one person dies, then you've won the game. So they have like a Gwent-esque game in here that is as fun or more fun than the game itself. So that's interesting
Just like
as well.
regular Gwent.
Yeah, and it has like a good collection aspect where, like as you're going along through the world, you play this with random people and you get better cards as you beat them, and you kind of level up your deck. Yeah. So very strange game. I don't know if I'm going to make it to the end or not. Like I think I've played it for a decent amount of time, like 10 plus hours. Yeah, so I don't know if I'm going to finish it or not, but I have enjoyed at least the uniqueness and my time with it. But yeah, very strange one, but if you're into that kind of stuff, then yeah, this is pretty cool.
I get like I guess like the sales on it were really underwhelming. Like I see the creator of it talking on social media a little bit about just how it didn't make the kind of splash that they wanted it to. And I can a little bit understand it because it sounds like there's a lot going on, but if you just call it like wizardry but with Wordle, then that gets you a lot of the way there, is what it sounds like.
Yeah. And yeah, the thing that's impressive is like how many different cases are accommodated for. Like the fact that like there's so much like manual user input, and they do a good job of like, even if you say gibberish, the character will just be like, well, we're not going to do that. But anyway, we'll see, they do a good job of accommodating, like, even if you say something that's like a kind of out there idea, sometimes it'll be like well supported, like cases that you think might not be. Yeah. But even if you say something that's like doesn't make any sense, they do a good job of not making you feel weird about it. So yeah. Overall, yeah, very interesting game. Definitely worth getting on sale if nothing else. So.
Cool. Yeah, it's you're the first person I have heard who has played it. And the first person that I know that I've spoken to who has played it, and you make it sound neat.
It's a weird one. It definitely pushes the boundaries of like, what you can do with the game. So yeah,
cool.
That's all I got.
Had a busy couple weeks.
Yeah, I edited myself. I still have demos that I haven't talked about, but
oh wow,
I don't want to go on forever.
Nice
demos for days.
Yeah.
You have demost.
I have 1.5. Let's say.
It sounds like you might not. Well, you said that.
It's yeah. I'm trying to figure out how much I want to talk about the second one.
Games, yes, I
Yes.
did. I
Video-
played
video
some of
games.
them. That's a thing I do.
I streamed a bit of an early access city builder over this past weekend, called Worshippers of Cthulhu. I want to make sure that's right because I said the wrong one initially. Worshippers of Cthulhu. This is, like I said, it's a city builder, where you are the high priest of a cult who has gone out to an island that is basically right above R'lyeh, the ancient city where Cthulhu sleeps. Lovecraft mythos kind of stuff. And you have your cult and your followers, and you need to build like a settlement and get the resources to support them, but also build the places to perform rites, and then perform rites and sacrifices in order to gain favor with the gods. And then, ultimately, you are trying to get enough blood and make sacrifices in order to summon, monstrous
Great
other.
old one.
Yeah, you're trying to summon monstrous, otherworldly creatures to go and wage war on the inhabitants of the other islands, so you can kind of expand and kind of feed the engine of your cult's growth and support the regular kind of income of people who are called to the island by their dreams to come and join the cult. So you can kind of match that expansion. Yeah.
I'm seeing back tattoos. I'm seeing people set on fire. How does this fare as a Cthulhu game?
Yeah. So I mean, it's not particularly scary. Also, it is very early access. Is a little bit of what it feels like. There's just kind of a lack of polish around it, and there are some systems that don't necessarily feel very hooked up to other systems. I mean, this is relatively new. It hit Steam in October. Yeah, in October of 2024. So it's not especially scary. But it is a neat concept for a city builder that is not as neat or as mechanically pat or satisfying as an Against the Storm, even though it feels like it is trying to do a little bit of an Against the Storm kind of thing.
So from watching your stream, the big thing that struck me as maybe a little depressing is it seems like your call is just obviously evil, just straight up right now murder some folks.
Yeah.
And I get that because it's supposed to be an evil cult, but it's kind of I know, I feel like it's a lot more compelling to be oh, this is sinister, but I could conceivably see someone following this versus just hey, it's murder o'clock again.
Yeah.
Isn't that what Cult of the Lamb tries to do?
A little bit, yeah. is my understanding. Is that correct, Moxie?
I would say some of both. Cult of the Lamb does it, I think, much better. I was still disappointed, actually, even in that one, that you're making decisions about what sort of cult you want to be, but the answer is always some flavor of death cult, as opposed to I don't know, we're going to be a drug cult or a sex cult or, I don't know, whatever other weird cults there are.
Yeah. So this is where it runs up. It's kind of weird to make it into a city builder in my mind. And I think that is something that kind of forces it away from being, the interesting things to me, which is the way that a cult like this would interface with the world around it. So you're isolated, you're on this island. It's also, medieval a little bit. It's not necessarily a very advanced kind of, technology, kind of vibe. And so I was playing it and, having fun, still kind of in the extended tutorial for the session that I played. But what it ended up kind of making me want was not so much a city builder, but almost a grand strategy game inside of a city where you were I don't know, taking over institutions in order to, taking over institutions and, finding a way to like model, just a like political and economic power in order to, in order to, get what you need in order to spread your influence and stuff. Or like it kind of would have been cool if it was like a little bit of a Plague Inc., make it like a global scale kind of thing, and you were managing it there. By making it into, you are making this kind of island colony that is dedicated entirely to the worship of the cult. It does kind of undercut what could be really interesting around this. It makes it feel a little bit more like it is just a skin on something that is trying to be like an against the storm, and against the storm, or like a very, very like simplified version of Anno or something like that.
It's like the mechanics aren't expressing like the mythos type stuff that well, it sounds like.
Yeah. So
I do feel like you're bearing the lead, though, which is clearly that cults apparently run entirely on clams.
What they decide to make a resource is very funny, which is like the villagers have needs, and you increase your faith income, which is your currency. One of your currencies in this by meeting their needs, housing them and having them work in places. But like, instead of having like, oh, here's a food need, and you meet it by these various means that have different trade-offs. It's like, you know what? These cultists, they got clam hunger and they got corn hunger. And then also like different individual like families within the cult. You're not modeling like individual citizens, it's families and heads of families. They have like basically like like passions or aptitudes, which is like this is a cultist who is especially good at or dedicated to like being a shepherd, for raising the sheep who provide the blood sacrifices, or for making the robes that outfit people. But also it's like, I'm a cultist who absolutely loves growing corn. I will grow all the corn you want. Ask me to cook it and I will do a dog shit job. I do not heat up the corn. I only raise the corn.
I am anti-vegetarian, or whatever the opposite of that is. Like,
sounds like some RimWorld bleed over. Like, I don't care how happy you are.
A lot of Lovecraftian stuff set in New England, and New England loves their clam chowder.
It's very funny because between the clam and the corn, it's an entirely chowder-based economy. Yeah. So. Also that like that aptitude thing. So you talked about the back tattoos. That is a way that you can change the aptitudes of your followers, which is it's basically just an interface to like respecialize them. But you take them into a ceremonial room, and you have to carve runes on their back, and the runes correspond to like different aptitudes. It's really just like look at the book that they provide and see the pattern that you need to draw in order to make them specialize in this, and then do it. So it's just kind of extra steps that could have just been a menu, but it's a neat flavor thing.
Very cool.
Yeah. So I was a little bit underwhelmed, but also it's early access. I think that like it does not have enough rigor to it for me in terms of like the simulation and logistics kind of stuff. And the theming is a little bit thin to me at the moment, but I don't know.
Was this the half game or the one game that you were thinking about talking about?
This was the one game. Okay. The other game that I've been playing is my new depression game has been Satisfactory. Put RimWorld down, picked up Satisfactory. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And I don't know that I want to talk about it too much because Ben and I are going to do a watch out for fireballs on it.
Hell yeah. I wasn't going to say anything if you didn't.
Yeah, we're done being, we're trying not to be coy boys anymore about stuff that's coming up. It'll be a little bit later, kind of in the first half of this year, but because we're doing the guest watch out for fireballs, it was like, oh, I want to play Satisfactory. Ben, you have played Satisfactory. Let's have you on to talk about it kind of in depth. So like, I don't want to burn that cast, other than to say, wow, this game is different than when I played it.
I can foresee at least a half an hour of the conversation talking about how Satisfactory is the best approximation of software engineering that I've found in a game.
It is seriously, it's a game about technical debt. It's amazing.
Yeah. I'm excited because I never finished the last age that they added on 1.0 release. So I think this puts the fire under me to go back and do that before we talk about it.
Yeah. So like I'm in tier 3 right now, which means I just unlocked I'm about like, oh gosh, it's like level 6. No, I'm in phase 3. I'm on tier 6, which is the tier where you start getting railway stuff.
Oh, okay. All
yes. Right. Yeah.
So you're well past the Kole age then.
Yes. Every age is the Kole age.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like to give you a sense of like how kind of not like rudimentary, but just like how early the game was when I played it last and when I talked about it last. It's a game where you are in first person perspective on this strange and colorful alien world, attempting to build factories in order to harness the resources and send them up a space elevator to meet quotas from your corporation. When I played this originally back in like 2018, 2019, kind of like when it hit early access on the Epic Game Store, like there was no dedicated thing that you could build that would send resources up.
Oh
no.
like no space elevator?
Oh no, so there was a space elevator that was still like a central thing, but like if you wanted to like take a conveyor belt of resources and direct it straight upward, to a new floor, or to like to meet the level of like a resource depot or something that you were building, you had to like use the conveyor belt lifts in order to like make like a little switchback kind of thing. And it was the most finicky thing in the world. And so to have conveyor lifts built in, which are just like, now it goes onto a little like elevator that raises stuff up at the same rate for the, the quality of the quality of conveyor that you're building. It's like, oh my God, like my factories get like 10 times smaller because I don't have to like account for the slope of how things need to be raised up.
I think another huge advancement that they added in the 1.0 was the ability to transport goods like via internet, kind of. Or whatever, with the SAM resource.
That was so hard to wrap my mind around, and like I'm kind of embarrassed how much time I have spent trying to make like a central resource depot that would keep that filled. And also give me like basically a mall where I can go shopping for all the construction, things that I need. And I was like, okay, so like, how do I direct this and make sure it doesn't back up and direct the overflow, to where it can be like traded in for points? And like, well, no, you don't have to put the dimensional like depots in the same place. Put it in the fucking factory where you're making the thing, dipshit. And so like I had a central location like on this huge platform I built trying to make a central base. It's like, how do I do it? Oh, this YouTube tutorial that I watched, it's not giving me anything. And then I was just like, no, I don't have to do this. Like I don't.
I think maybe one more mechanic, not to talk too much about it, but that they added maybe since the last time you played is, have you interacted with the blueprints at all?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a huge lifesaver of like, you can much more easily scale instead of like, just having this very disorganized, like, I don't know, like a bunch of assemblers in a row, like 20 by 1 or something like that. You make a nice like box that has a clean input output, no waste, and then you can copy and paste that as many times as you want, and you're good to go.
As opposed to, painstakingly arranging every single little thing. You build it once on the special platform and then it can be recreated.
Yep.
Yeah. So
huge. Yeah.
Good.
I think one final thing is the way that I see this game is that this game begins when you're done with all the tiers. And because that's when you can be like, okay, I have all the resources now. What do I want to build just for fun? And like, what kind of game do I want to play here? Because it's like, you got guns, you can make a first person shooter if you want, or you got cars, you can make a racing game here if you wanted to. And it's literally like up to you at that point. Yeah, but you got to get those resources first.
Yeah, you got to get the resources and unlock the tech, right? Yeah. So I adore this game. I loved it back then, and I am having a lot of fun just disappearing into it now. So
yeah, I think this is one of the few cases of a early access game that kind of like made good on its promises and like didn't fall into a trap of just like feature creep and stuff like that. Like, yeah. Very satisfying.
It is just really well put together. There's still some like eccentricities with it, but it's not, nothing that's like a deal breaker. I just think it's a really, really neat game.
Yep.
Yeah. Satisfactory. Any questions about Satisfactory?
Did you find it satisfactory?
Yes, it's a very satisfying game. It's like scratching an itch in your brain.
Excellent.
Yeah. Who wants to go next?
I've got something very, very old.
Okay.
So after a discussion on another Discord where someone had completed their main mission in Fallen London, I decided to give that another try. So this is the game that was the first thing in the universe of Sunless Sea and Sunless Skies, but is the browser game that kind of started all that.
Yeah, it started as Echo Bazaar. Yeah.
Right, exactly. It was originally called Echo Bazaar, then changed its name to Fallen London. And I have not played this game for at least 10 years.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. 10 years goes fast.
Yep. And this is one of those things where, I could have started a new character, but this is a game that very much is a long-term game. So I did not want to, get rid of all my progress. So I kind of jumped in and, which is really, is really a interesting experience. Because, you have to, so I guess I should say for people who've never played this is a browser-based game where you have, a certain number of actions you could take, and you get a new action every 5 minutes. And those actions are spent on making options in various stories. And so it's almost like a choose your own adventure, but with stat checks.
Yeah.
And then also there's a lot of things where there'll be everything is for the most part there is no like behind the scenes like game state, like keeping track of your progress. Everything is managed based off of whether you have items or whether you have certain stats. So for example, if you start say trying to rob a bank, you have you then now that you started that, the game needs to present to you like, all right, here are the cards for the various things you can try to do to like prepare to rob the bank. And so the way it does that, since there is, like I said, no game state, is you will get a like robbing a bank stat of say 1, and then a preparation stat of 0. And once you build up the preparation stat to say 5, now you're ready to try to rob the bank. So it's the kind of upshot of that is the game has amazing writing and amazing world building, but because nothing is exactly controlled directly, it's very much you're constantly experiencing various snippets of story. and piecing together the various lore elements that will give you, and then also trying to work towards a goal. So it could very well be like, even if I hadn't taken 10 years off, even just normal gameplay, it could very well be that like I've just gone high enough in my main stat in order to unlock, say, a new type of heists are on my brain, because that's what I've been doing in the game recently, but like a new type of heist. And during the planning stage for that, it might have like, get help from the cunning actuary. And that might be a stat that I got like 4 months ago in some completely unrelated adventure where like I helped an actuary do something.
Okay.
So
how do you even keep track of that?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's almost it's less that you are following a story and more that you're kind of building up this world in your head.
Yeah.
And that's kind of promoted by the fact that a lot of it's got this weird approach to how it handles a lot of the things. So like, it's not cunning actuary. There is an equivalent of that. I forget. But it's the same thing. Like a lot of the characters will be like the adjectives title, and it's kind of at the same time, like whenever that the adjective title shows up, like that's the same person. They have factions that they're associated with, things they tend to do, that sort of thing. But at the same time, not just straight up giving them a name kind of promotes this idea where there's sort of a level of abstraction. And some of that gets really interesting. So like one of my favorites is one of the characters is the implacable, and I don't know, it's all weird British words. Detective, who is this universe is straight up like equivalent of Sherlock Holmes, and is also like a 70-year-old black lady.
Okay.
And it's a lot of fun because you'll have like one mission, it'll be you're helping her solve a mystery. And then, a little while later, there'll be a mission where, you're doing a heist and she's after you. And, just like I said, great writing, especially with her, like her whole thing, it's freaking Sherlock Holmes. Like, you aren't going to win, but so a lot of if you're going up against her, it'll be things where it's like, again, she's, an elderly lady, so it'll be like the way you counter her is like arranging things so that she has to take care of her grandchildren or something. Like, not literally, but things like that where it's like you're more, the writing with her is really funny because when you're going against her, you're more in a very petty way inconveniencing her than you are actually defeating her. So that's all fun. But a lot of what I've been doing, as you might guess, is trying to just get my feet back under me. It's kind of funny because going in, there's a lot of just like, what was I thinking? For example, I found myself, I was super closely allied with the police.
Okay.
Which, as near as I could tell, I was doing that because the police also, like, most of their thing is like beating up poor people for the benefit of those in power. But they also kind of cover a lot of the like consulting detective storylines.
Okay.
But definitely had to go out, get rid of that, jettison that. Also, my pronouns have changed, so had to go into that.
Mm-hmm.
And this game is super, super, super woke.
Yeah.
Just all of the wokeness. But
Cthulhu is woke.
But
it is, yeah, and in the weirdest way it possibly can be. So, like, you can straight up go and set your pronouns to he, she, they, or it.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also have your addressed as.
Okay.
And you've got your basics like sir, madam, and the gender neutral citizen.
Mm-hmm.
You also have various titles that you can earn, like deacon, lieutenant, doctor, etc.
Mm-hmm.
However, you also have just off-the-wall ones. So, like, one of them you can set as is sir, matter, yes, well.
Yeah.
just unable, just melting down because they can't figure it out.
Yep.
At least they're trying,
Yeah. So other than that, then it's kind of funny because they've made the game a lot more user friendly. They added a meta quest chain for each of the main stats that sort of guides you through and is it's making your name. And so that I guess I should say I was already when I stopped playing in kind of the mid game, which is something that's usually going to be like a couple months of gameplay in, at least. And so it was kind of funny because a lot of it is you've already done all the stats. You then just need to answer. They're like, all right, so you did this, and then why did you do this, or like what did you do afterwards? Because they've now added in things where, like, completing these missions, you will then have character development. So that's kind of funny. So, for example, for solving the various mysteries, you have to decide, what type of detective am I? Am I like a Sherlock Holmes, like super arrogant, like genius psychopath? Am I kind of this idealistic person? Am I someone who's just like man of science? I'm going to the worst truth is better than 1,000 comforting falsehoods, like that whole thing. So that's a lot of fun, but kind of funny. But it seems like they've done a lot better job with making the game accessible.
Okay.
Other than that, because this is kind of game that's difficult to, as you might imagine, talk about just because there is no single story. Just some kind of highlights of some of the things I've been doing is I got thrown out of the university I was a member of for solving a murder and determining that one of the staff on the board of the university did it. I've in order to try to get back into the university, I am working on organizing a scientific expedition. But that requires me to cozy up to Queen Victoria, who may or may not be her or her daughter, may or may not be a Lovecraftian horror.
Okay.
By this point. Let's see. I've also found what they call the drowned, like, undead creatures in The Witcher.
It's been too long since I played it. Can't tell you.
Well, I've basically got one of those that was a former toy maker that I'm commissioning to make toys for me. I have no idea why I need these toys, but I got a really bitchin' Clockwork steamship.
Okay.
So, and it's just, I don't know. It's one of those games. It's really good. It's a lot of fun. It's well written. It's very hard to confuse or hard to explain.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a setting more than like a narrative.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it very much is. That's kind of one of the big differences between this and the Sunless Seas and Fallen Skies. It's been a week.
Yeah.
Sunless Skies this one is much more setting focused rather than narrative focused.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually also kind of to that topic currently kickstarting a tabletop game of Fallen London.
I'm very surprised that hasn't happened before.
Yeah, it seems like it should be would have been a thing, but yeah. So that's something they're getting into, kind of leaning into. Like you said, this is a very setting driven, work of fiction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also reading or started reading The Aleph and Other Stories by Jorge Luis Borges. I hope I pronounced that right.
Borges. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is like one of the big inspirations for this series, and are just really good kind of precursors to weird fiction that I had never known about before.
It's not like precursors, because he was like mid 20th century. Borges was Argentinian, kind of author, more like magical realism, veering into like weird, extremely like conceptual kind of stuff. The nice thing about a Borges story is like the majority of them are 4 pages long. Like he just
exactly
like thinks of a concept and is, what if here's a whole book of fucked up mazes. Like, what if there is this impossible library, and what does this say about the way that the human mind works, right? Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's it's one of those things that's fun to read, also because it's like influenced so much stuff, but if you haven't read it, you wouldn't know that, if that makes sense.
Right. Like Borges is something that is like a direct antecedent and inspiration for like House of Leaves. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, have a good time. But that's all I've really been playing this week.
You're right. You did talk about it just a little bit over 10 years ago. The last time on the show, episode 86, it really tied the relationship together. In December of 2014. Do you want to hear? Do you want to hear what other games we talked about at that time?
Sure.
Oh, I'm afraid.
I talked about Crossy Road, so I definitely was scrambling to find something to talk about because I didn't want to say, I didn't play anything this time again. Dennis, you had played Saints Row 4, possibly after stealing it from me.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Frozen Synapse Prime as well. That was the asynchronous multiplayer game, or the asynchronous strategy game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Moxie, you talked about Fallen London, and Ben, you talked about Dragon Age Inquisition.
Oof.
Yeah. Rough stuff.
Yeah. A lot of hours I can't get back from that game.
That you remember nothing about.
Frozen Synapse, that was the one they all yellowed, right?
I don't know about that. Excuse me. It was, I think I played the PS3 version, and really loved it. And as far as I know, it's still going. Like, and there was a second one released.
Oh, maybe it's the second one. I thought there was one of them that they had just like stopped support for, and it was like innately online or something like that.
If that happened, it escaped my notice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think about Frozen Synapse every now and again.
Mm-hmm.
Very novel game structure.
Seemed like a neat game.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Dennis, how about you?
Yeah, I'm up. So, as I predicted last week, the 2 major milestones I have crossed. I am all caught up on Trackmania Track of the Day tracks. How many times can I say tracks? And then I have beaten Ascension 20 with all of the Downfall bosses.
And the Slay the Spire mod. Yeah.
In Slay the Spire. I didn't do it with Snecko. It's basically a gimmick character that is all RNG across all fronts.
Okay.
And I just didn't feel like throwing myself at that wall for however many hours. But very happy about both of those. And finishing that last A20 boss in Slay the Spire, I was like, oh man, what is this it for me? Like, what is next? And then like an angel coming out of heaven, Balatro came to Game Pass.
So it hit Game Pass. Huh.
Yes.
Okay.
I've just, for no good reason, not checked out Balatro until now. Mm-hmm. But I was like, I need a new fix. I did the thing. Thought about maybe going and looking for other Slay the Spire DLCs or whatever. But Balatro was right there, and holy crap.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, this is indie game. You're ostensibly building poker hands. You have a certain number of opportunities to like cash in a hand and opportunities to discard cards from like a larger hand that you build. The set you submit out of. And it is about like, the amount of money you have to generate with what you cash in consistently goes up and gets more difficult as you try to kind of break it wide open to get insane combos and bonuses and all that stuff. And then front and center for what makes Balatro special is all of the Joker cards that you can get that are effectively like relics from Slay the Spire, kind of special rule sets or exceptions or bonuses that will bend what kind of things you focus on significantly as you play. So I've, I had one run where I swapped a whole bunch of cards to be either hearts or diamonds and then focused on generating flushes.
Yeah.
So your deck can change. It starts out as a 52 card deck and then can change significantly as you go. And then the other one, I got a Joker that allows you to make straights with a 1 card gap. So you can, instead of them needing to be adjacent, they can be a step over.
Yeah. Have you combined that with 4-fingered yet?
I don't think I've seen 4-fingered.
Yeah.
Is it what it sounds like? You only need 4.
Yep.
Oh boy. Yeah. Well, no, I got a voucher, which is like a more kind of a permanent upgrade. A voucher that made sure in any Celestial pack, which there are packs of like bonus cards that you can buy, always has my most played hand as an option to upgrade.
Yep.
And so now like my a straight is, started out as worth like I don't know, 50 points or chips and a 4x multiplier, something like that. And now it's worth 250 chips and a 16x multiplier.
Yeah.
So basically it's like I make a straight and I win, or I don't.
See, that's the thing. You specialize.
No other options.
You specialize, and then it feels like the boss blind will be like, no straights today.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I got one that was you can't have the same hand twice. Like every time you submit, it has to be a different hand. But thankfully it was at the point in like my power curve where 1 straight was enough to hit the threshold. But yeah, if I ever get straights taken away from me, I'm just SOL.
Yeah.
There's a sleeper strategy there where you just upgrade like single card or a pair because it's like such a high ability to hit it. Whereas if you upgrade it enough times, then it makes it easier and more consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I guess that's the interesting thing is, it feels like straights and flushes are remarkably easy to create. Even without all of the deck modification stuff. Just, having 8 cards and 4 opportunities to discard or whatever it is. You can almost guarantee if you really need to make a straight or a flush, you can do that. It's also interesting coming to a new, card-based game like this and kind of knowing it's like the type of thing that I should be strategizing around, but I know I don't know enough to actually do that yet.
Yeah, you just gotta fuck around, and you have there are unlocks that you need to get, and there's very important stuff in those early unlocks too. So,
sure.
And you also just need to figure out which deck is gonna help you learn the game best. I was really partial to the green one,
Okay.
that just kind of gave you money for however many hands or discards you had left at the end of a given round, right?
Yeah, well, and I think, man, the head fake that I need to get around is, for the most part, as you start the game, I've been playing with the red deck, and so you guys can tell me if there's one that's significantly different from this, but as long as you cross the threshold of whatever you're trying to do, whatever money threshold they set, you get the rewards. Yeah. So it's not like you're trying to protect HP or anything like that. You get bonus money if you do it in less hands. But at least initially with the red deck, you don't get any bonus money for keeping discards around.
Yeah.
And so I'm so anxious to get over that threshold that I don't think about, I could use some extra discards here to try to do X, Y, or Z. Or alternatively, the pressure's off. You're so close to the threshold that you can turn in literally anything and you'll be fine. But I spend 15 minutes trying to optimize and think through what to do just because I'm, trying to figure out the game. And it's wonderful. That was fun, but literally any button you could have clicked would have won you the game there. So, it's scratches the itch that Slay the Spire scratches, but still feels very, very different.
Yeah.
Does it make me a monster if kind of I don't know if it's low poly or pixel art kind of format turns me off a bit?
No.
That's just a taste thing.
I think stylistically it's pretty flat, so
it's just
it's
a little
kind of trying to channel the whole the early Microsoft card games, right?
I think that might be in there somewhere. It's just I don't know. It feels grating visually. Not that I want it to be hyper polished or whatever. I don't. Maybe it's just that all the jokers look slightly leering, and that makes me uneasy.
Turn off so something that might help, turn off any of the filters for the CRT or the screen warp kind of stuff. That
interesting.
If you flatten it, it gets a lot less I don't know, lysergic. Just I don't know. I needed to turn that off on the Switch version, right?
Okay,
and that made it
great.
That made it easier to look at. But I am in favor of this having no story, no dialogue, and no characters, and just having the art of the Jokers be clever little visual puns.
Yes,
I think
yes.
My favorite thing of this is when you start incorporating cards that aren't poker cards, like the Major Arcana and stuff like that, and it just becomes kind of Calvin poker.
Yeah.
I feel like
absolutely.
I feel like meta-wise, there's the sands are changing where, at least in the indie dev front, a lot of people kind of throw shade at Balatro because they feel like it was over rewarded with stuff. I don't think
really.
I feel like I feel like that sentiment's kind of, or at least I've heard a lot of it, where it's people complaining about Balatro clones kind of flooding the market and stuff, and
that's not Balatro's fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
And
But,
that's also weird because, like, that's how it works. Like, look at Vampire Survivor clones, yeah?
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I guess I'm not as hard on it, but I think I'm burnt out on it, where I enjoyed my time with it, but I think I'm done with it at this
You
point.
played a lot of it too.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew I was stepping into something that had the potential to eat my life for a good while here. So I mean, I'm going to be honest, the amount of willpower it took to step away from the game to even podcast was significant. The other thing that I think is kind of cool is this is a very like cloud gaming friendly game.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no,
and-
like it doesn't require like reflex or reaction time or like especially intense graphics. It's simple.
Yep. And so that makes it like I have this on my Switch and my phone too now, which is incredibly nice. So I expect to be playing it that way. I don't know if it's going to do the thing where like the PC version has one save and then I guess it's technically the Xbox version that you get when you do cloud gaming is another save. That would be annoying.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I haven't looked into that yet, but I fully expect I'll be spending a lot of time playing this through the xCloud service, which is fun.
It's a very neat game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's all I've got that's new. Like I said, crossed those major milestones that I've been working on for a while in Trackmania and Slay the Spire, but am very excited about this new high I'm chasing.
New fixation, yeah.
Yep.
The end boss.
Now it is time for the multiplayer where we ask you a question and you answer. Dennis, what is the question that you asked the nice people?
Yeah, so whether you're playing in first person or third person, sometimes you don't want to be playing as a person at all. So what are your favorite games that have you playing as a non-human or humanoid character?
Yeah. And I'll get started here with Warren, who says, ignoring the fact that they have pilots, can I still choose a spaceship? Star Fox came to mind. Then Rogue Squadrons, not to mention your R-Types and Ikarugas, and incredibly good Star of Providence, formerly known as Monolith. I just like being a moving thing with lasers.
Yes, I hope spaceships are acceptable because that will factor into my answer.
That's hard, right? So like you're not playing, you're still controlling like a little dude inside who is piloting that.
Yeah. So here's where we'll draw the line: is if you are playing from the cockpit, that is too close.
Okay.
But if you are playing from outside the ship, then you're good.
So it depends.
Star Fox.
Appropriately enough, Star Fox, you're playing as a furry, not a human. So,
But humanoid.
Humanoid.
Yeah.
oh, did we specify humanoid?
Humanoids in the
We
text.
did, yes.
Yeah.
Some of those are
So I'm sorry, you will
harder
have to leave the show now, Moxie. Your answer was incorrect. No.
I gotta sit this one out, guys.
What was you going to say, Ben?
Well, it's kind of with Star Fox, it's like an added wrinkle because they're animals, and so it's like, yeah, I guess they're humanish,
Yeah.
and bipedal and whatnot. But
Yeah. The anthro, it's human. It stands for human.
Yeah, it's got the planted the seeds that I see in Bluey coming to fruition, where it's the dogs are all sentient and people, and then there are all the other animals. Talk about pet cats, birds, all that stuff, and they just do not acknowledge it.
We're only
not what they wanna
accepting
deal with.
games where your main character fails the Harkness test.
What is that?
Yeah, you should have known that you couldn't just throw that out and not explain it.
Some listener was very tickled by that joke. It was not me.
So in Doctor Who, Jack Harkness is a character, very popular character who will have sex with anything.
Okay.
And so the Harkness test is basically, a fan fiction's a sexy fan fiction is all right as long as Jack Harkness would have sex with whatever you're making have sex.
Okay.
Does it have human intelligence or greater? Can it talk or otherwise communicate with language? And is it of sexual maturity for its species?
Jesus. That's
something that I know now that this will probably stick in my mind longer than it needs to.
As penance for that, Moxie, what does Shishi Shibumi say?
Shishi Shibumi says, Ori and the Will of the Wisp. Rest in peace, kind of.
Yeah, you're playing as like a little sprite kind of thing. And that
Was that
it's like a little
second one or the
fox.
first one?
it was Ori and the Will. Yeah, Ori and the Will of the Wisp was the second one. Ori and the Blind Forest was the first one.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That game really creeped me out because you're just, if it's what I'm thinking of, you're just like possessing animals and putting them in life-threatening situations.
I haven't played it, so I don't know.
Yeah, I played it briefly.
I don't remember that
Well, I
part.
played the first one. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I don't remember
Yeah,
the
I might
animal
be thinking of
possession.
something else.
No.
You might be. It was much more focused on the movement that you could do when you were
platforming
like a
and
nimble
jumping.
fox.
Yeah.
And it had
Yeah.
a bit of a Metroidvania element to it where you got better at, double jumping and flash sprinting and hula hooping or, all the move sets that people get.
Yeah.
Foxes famously great hula hoopers.
Yeah. First person hula hooper.
Ben, what does Robinson say?
Robinson says, I choose Rain World because your goal as you play a slug cat just trying to feed yourself and find a safe place to sleep is very animalistic. The world is fierce and untamed. There's a little humanity to be found in Rain World. There's little humanity, not
Yeah.
really.
Plays a slug cat. They just threw that out like we expected. Yeah.
Doesn't pass the
Hey.
Harkness test.
We had Bearcat for our mascot, so
Wait,
Yeah,
do you
that's an
guys
animal.
not know the Slug Cat?
No, what's the
That's like number one. This is number one on my video game character I want a plushie of. They are adorable.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah.
what is it on the Harkness scale?
I mean,
Don't
Ambiguous.
answer that. Don't answer that. We don't want to get taken down.
yeah. Let's see. Dennis, what does Brain in a Bowl say?
They say this has got to be Cogmind. Playing as a robot, endlessly rebuilding, replacing, and upgrading your body with whatever you can scavenge is like a trash heap droid of Theseus. Never gets old. Very cool.
I've never heard of this. Sci-fi roguelike in the classic sense, like being ASCII based. Huh, neat.
Yeah, this is really neat.
Looks like a lot. Let's see. And then finally here, Michael says, I've never actually played it, but watching people play Star Wall is exhilarating and hilarious. What is Star Wall?
It's spelled like narwhal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a physics game where you're playing as a narwhal. Oh, it's a jousting game.
It is
physics-based jousting game.
literally exactly what it says on the tin.
Yeah. Huh.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Let's see. So this is hard. It's a very hard question. I have an answer, but I don't want to steal Ben's. So
I don't have a definitive answer, so I'm
You
not sure
don't?
if you're going to be able to.
oh yeah, Animal
Maybe.
Well. You're playing just like this little Bob guy.
Little meatball.
Yeah.
I think the developer said what it was. It's like maybe like a lima bean or something.
Uh-huh.
or-
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah, just a little what's it, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what I got. Like there are others. There's like Bad Mojo, where you're a guy who was turned into a cockroach. He plays
Oh,
that.
yeah.
It's like from a top down kind of perspective. Carrion, but I don't know.
it's like
I don't
Carrion
like that
and
game
Stray
enough.
are two
Yeah.
recent entries, but they are
Yeah.
not necessarily good entries.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
One
tough to
idea-
evaluate once you get a non-human answer. Like, what makes this one better than another one?
And it just
One
has
I
to be
didn't
like,
play,
what's
but
the
this
game? Okay.
reminds me of is what was that one where you're like an AI that's controlling a house and there's like elementals and stuff?
Fuck, I don't know.
Yeah.
Pal World?
That sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah.
But
I don't have an answer for
the name
that.
is failing me.
Yeah. Let's see. Moxie, what's your answer?
So I feel like so I don't think this technically counts, but I would say Citizen Sleeper, although you're technically a humanoid. I think it's like exploration, making an AI be a believable character or that sort of thing is really cool. But if I was going with actually the rules of this, I think I'd probably go with Cubivore.
Mm-hmm.
The old, I think it's a GameCube game where you were
Yeah.
literally a cube, and the game is sort of ostensibly like anticipating like a Tokyo Jungle type thing, but is much sillier and more abstract.
Yeah.
Now that's somebody who just stole my answer.
It's okay. You can audible over to Thomas Was Alone.
I mean, did you have anything you wanted to add on to that?
Nope, that's what I got.
Yeah, I think I'll reiterate. I think Tokyo Jungle's a good answer because the gameplay's tied into the characters that you are.
Yeah.
What was the biggest thing you could wind up being in Tokyo Jungle?
Oof.
It's like a
I know
lion
you
or
could
something.
be a raptor.
Oh, that's right. They had dinosaurs.
Yeah, I think it might be the Raptor.
That's funny.
God, it is wild that game has never been like re-released.
It's a crime that it's never been re-released.
I mean, calling the animals desperate based on their like attractiveness is a little like tone deaf.
Little bit, yeah. But it just I don't know. They re-released fucking Lollipop Chainsaw, right? Like
And it was not good.
well, I mean, it was a bad re-release. They fucked it up. And it wasn't an especially great game to begin with, but yeah.
Tokyo Jungle was so elegant where it's like, oh, if I'm playing as a raptor, I'll be able to kill anything. Like, this will be easy. And then it's like, the trade-off is now you got to keep up with your metabolism, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas, Plant Eater could afford to be a lot more chill. That is a good answer.
Yeah. Dennis, how about you?
Yeah. So going all the way back around to the spaceship motif, I thought of the game Dreadnought. This was a space combat game, but the kind of big catch was that you were playing as essentially Star Destroyers, not X-Wings.
Mm-hmm.
And everything moved slow and just had that sense of weight and like hovering in the air as you come out from behind an asteroid or whatever. And just, I don't know, it was really fun to play something that lumbering and powerful. So, the kind of ship that was being operated by hundreds of people versus one pilot was a very interesting experience.
Mm-hmm. I'm having trouble finding that.
You got to search for Dreadnought game specifically.
It's
to come
dread like the feeling, and then NOUGHT.
Yeah, it just like the top results for that are games that are not out yet. So, but that's I'm looking on Steam, so it might not be on Steam.
Was it? I was going to say, was it a PlayStation only game, Dennis?
It might have been actually.
Yeah, I remember you talking about it, but.
Yeah, and notably, this was like the next effort from Jaeger after they made Spec Ops: The Line.
Oh shit, you're right.
Which what can you do after that that's going to live up to it?
Yeah.
Kudos to them for not trying to like recreate Spec Ops and going just completely different genre, can do completely different world like that. It brought a lot of grace in my eyes.
They were not rewarded for that decision. Though.
No, they were not.
No, not quite.
Yeah.
Not quite.
Can I amend my answer? And I'm kind of kicking myself for not thinking of this.
Oh yeah, go.
Octodad.
Holy shit! Yeah. No, that's just a regular dad.
That's a human. I don't know.
Okay, all right. I'm very happy with the way that was received. Neat. Well, good question. Thank you so much, everybody, for responding. If you would like to, participate in this, follow the Level podcast on Blue Sky. Watch for the prompts to go up on Monday afternoons. And thank you, Dennis, for posting it.
Mm-hmm.
The end boss.
Now it is time for the end boss, where we talk about things that are happening in the world of video games and how we feel about them. I have a story that is all but confirmed. It's not official yet, but everything is pointing toward it. There is going to be a remake, like a remaster of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 coming out.
Hell yeah.
It is kind of like we've known this for a while because Tony Hawk has actually kind of basically said it, you know?
He's a grandpa now. He can't remember what he's allowed to say and not.
Yeah. And also he's Tony Hawk. What are you going to do? Yeah. So the team that worked on Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, that remaster, that they got like assigned, I think that they got like sent into the Call of Duty mines. Oh yeah, Vicarious Visions. Yeah, Blizzard basically like just absorbed that team like a cytophage or something like that. Just it was gone. Yeah, no, we've got this one coming out, which is exciting because those games have very good levels and interesting kind of mechanical additions to them, and it'll be neat to have those levels playable now. Outside of like, you can do it in hacked PS2 ROMs or hacked PS2 ISOs, but just having it be a game you can download will be nice. I do hope that they don't make it so much harder like the recent remaster was.
Yeah, that's fair.
What is the, so I've never played a Tony Hawk game, like I missed all this. What is like the significance of 3 and 4? Because to me this sounds like someone saying like, oh yeah, they're remaking Madden 1993.
Yeah.
The game's basically a visualizer for listening to 90s music.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is very true.
So there's an extent to which that like each new Tony Hawk game was a mission pack, just like, okay, here are 5 or 6 different levels to play in with their own kind of objectives and stuff. But I think the biggest thing is that each successive one for a while would add kind of a new move that would change the way you put combos together. So like in Tony Hawk 2, they added in manuals, which were like the ability to do like wheelies in between tricks in order to keep them going across flat ground. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 adds verts, which are ways to keep combos going while you are doing like half pipe tricks as well. Okay. I forget what the gimmick in 4 was. Skitching. Yeah, it was a way to get around levels by grabbing onto the back of cars. Yeah.
Okay. Was that not in earlier versions?
No.
I feel like that was in the series pretty early on, but
nope.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, also the spine transfer, which is a way to get between quarter pipes.
That's a way to get a new spine.
Yeah.
That's where you push in. I think you hit all the shoulder buttons and click the sticks at the same time to bail and just.
Yeah. So I'm excited about this. I didn't say specifically what the story was. A Singapore ratings agency updated a listing about it. So. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes sense that this would be in the works.
No. It's neat. Dennis, what's happening with Balatro?
Yeah, now that I'm an expert in the game.
Yep.
Something silly that had been going on has been corrected. Balatro got slapped with an 18 plus classification for strong gambling themes when it was released. Which is correct. Yeah.
Not really though.
Yeah, it's like it has a deck of cards in it and uses poker hands, and that's it.
Yeah, it's using like the visual language of poker, but it's not. Yeah. Continue.
Yeah, and certainly not after you're any amount into a run. The longer you play, the less it looks like poker. And but this 18 plus rating was a surprise to the Balatro devs, and they pointed out, rightly so, that it is pretty silly to give a game like Balatro an 18 plus rating for gambling stuff when things like the EA Sports FC series has, literally loot box gambling and other very dubious practices in it.
Extremely exploitative stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is more just a factor of things take time to move through the system than there being any specific party that was resisting the rating being made sensical. But nice to see that actually happen. And who knows, maybe it'll get Balatro in front of a few new people. I know I was holding out. I would never play an 18 plus rated game. So this is what brought me to it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was a lowercase I injustice that they got stuck with that. Yeah.
And kudos to them though, for just being very overt on not just we are working with council to amend this situation to our consumers' satisfaction. They're like, guys, this is stupid. Let's be real here.
Here's a direct contradiction. This is knee-jerk and not at all thoughtful, and actually shows tremendously poor judgment on the part of the system. Reconcile this, please. Fix it.
And they did. Yeah.
And Ben, I think it was you who told me something about like that developer, just the guy behind Balatro is real solid. He basically made it legal in contract, saying Balatro can never be used for any actual gambling, and also there can never be any free to play kind of shit attached to it.
Oh, I don't think I told you that. I don't know anything about the developer because outside of their post on Reddit or something. But I know they're very secretive but
yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of in I can understand why. It depends on who made this initial ruling, because if it's Europe and they are just super protective about anything that resembles gambling, I'm not so harsh on that. But yeah, if it's a case where they've let a bunch of other things through and this one was a weird exception, then that's a little less.
It's I don't know. I say lowercase I injustice because ultimately, what are the stakes? Well, but also I don't know, a sign that I don't know what that directly contradicts the story. I was going to say a false positive is something that shows the system is working, but very explicitly it's kind of not. I would rather them be vigilant, but the things that they choose to be vigilant about are not sensical.
Yeah, well, it's you can't have it both ways. You can either give Balatro the 18 plus classification and do the same for the loot box gambling games, or you can let both be at a 3+ rating without qualm, and make your judgments about which one is better, but at least be consistent.
Yeah. Ben, what's happening in the world of Batman games?
Yeah, this one was actually one that Jala pointed out to me a couple weeks ago, so shout out to Jala. It is just a report that Rocksteady is working on a new Batman game, a single-player Batman game, reportedly. It's very much in the rumor stage of what exactly it is, though, because the details about it are somewhat sparse. So some people are speculating that it could be a Batman Beyond type game. And then I guess my read on it is I'm curious of how much this will even resemble a previous Batman title, since so many people since then have left since the last game.
Oh yeah,
Arkham Knight is a decade ago. So, and the other point of this was that the game is still a few years away, so it's not coming out anytime soon. But.
Several, and also, there's the horrible news about what happens. Just Warner Brothers closed Monolith. They canceled a Wonder Woman game. There's a bunch of stuff. They patented the Nemesis system for the Middle Earth games and then
never released it
and then never ever used it, and then closed the studio that made it.
Yeah.
That's my big
Bizarro world of we acquire these people doing exciting things to give them more resources. Closed.
Yeah. Nope,
Yeah.
later. Bye.
To tell them to make a looter shooter that they're not equipped to make. Yep. And then
God.
Fucking
be aghast
And
when we
just-
lose $200 million. Yeah.
Yeah. Man. I didn't mean to make take your story and make it a downer, but just like
No,
it's
it's fine.
impossible to talk about Warner Brothers gaming division and not.
I feel like they
address the-
have years of shade that can be thrown at them, I think,
Yes.
after what they've done. So
Yeah.
I think that's fine. And I mean, and then on top of that, I'd like to shout this out since it's almost coming out. Mickey 17, the next movie by Bong Ho Joon? I don't know. The director of Parasite. They wouldn't give him final cut on the movie. And
What?
it's just like more
What?
bad decision. It's like he just won Best Director and Best Picture. Like, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah.
So what? Sorry, what does that mean? That mean? not
Like the
big into
director
movies.
getting final cut means that they choose what the final form of the film is. Like they do
Yeah.
the final
Oh.
edit themselves, as opposed to like
Yeah.
the studio being like, you need to change this scene or this scene or whatever based
Yeah.
on what we think it
Yeah,
should be.
He
That's
won Best
really dumb.
Director, not Best Editor.
Well, yeah.
But like with Bong Joon-ho, making the kind of movies that Bong Joon-ho makes, and you know, the very pointed messages that he tends to put in about capitalism and stuff, like having the big corporation, the incredibly fucked up corporation, Warner Brothers come in and say, actually, we're going to come in here and make sure that you're not, biting the hand that feeds too much. And it's like, well, fuck you.
Yep. Sigh.
Big sigh. Did you have a story, Moxie, or are you tapping out?
No, I'm tapping out this time.
All right. Well, how does everybody feel about butting it up?
Buttons.
The credits.
We don't have Jala here to say it. It's so like,
I know we got so into the
Jala, come back.
A button vacuum.
All right, someone has to kill Ben.
no.
And,
Oh, wait, hey, wait a second.
But I like having who's going to record about Satisfactory with me?
Yeah,
that's fair.
Probably Nick.
Wait, no. Not replaceable.
Yeah. So thank you so much for listening to level number 534. We appreciate you taking the time. If you would like to help out the show and the network, you can go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Kick us if a couple of bucks a month, get a bunch of bonus content. It's there. It's good. We like it. And also leave a rating or review. Tell your friends. We don't advertise. And follow us on Blue Sky, the level podcast .bsky.social, in order to see the multiplayer prompts.
Yes, indeed.
Is there anything I'm forgetting?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, I've been Cole Ross. You can find me on Blue Sky at Cole Ross.
I've been Dennis Furia. You can find me on Blue Sky at Furia Games.
I've been Moxie.
And I've been Ben Merkel.
And stick around for some titles.
Easter egg.
That was bad. I didn't write any down. Yeah.
For shame.
Yeah.
I got you.
Okay. What you got?
I've got 3.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one is Chowder-Based Economy, which I quite like. From Ben, First Person Hula Hooper. And actually also from Ben, a visualizer for 90s music.
That is pretty good.
Okay. All right. Ben, what do you have?
I indignantly wrote down How World.
Yeah, that was in between segments. You said Hal World and talking about the AI. Or what was that?
The AI defending a house.
Yeah,
and there were
yeah.
sprites around.
Yeah,
Animals
elemental sprites. Yeah, and none of us caught it.
No, I straight up didn't hear it,
Yeah.
but it is quite good.
Moxie.
Yeah, I had 2, which I need to pull up because. So I had Chowder-Based Economy,
Okay.
and this one I don't know if we even want to include it as a toady because it's kind of a downer. But I have The Law Doesn't Matter Anymore.
That's fine. I don't want it to be the title, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. By votes, it's Chowder-Based economy. But How World, I think that would be recompense.
No.
Okay.
I feel like I don't need that much coddling.
Okay. All right. I don't want to be patronizing. I just wanted to throw it out there. How does everybody?
I quite like Chowder-Based economy.
Yeah. I'm going to stylize it Chowder-Based economy instead of just Chowder-Based economy. Is that okay?
Yes.
All right. It is decided.
I'm racing to think of a pun.